Shalom, giving all praise to Yahweh Shem, Shabbat Shem, Kakodash, Shalom to the hopefully elect out there. This is going to be a quick one. GMS, quick hit. And the title of the video is Russia was never a part of the seven heads. And you know what I mean by the seven heads. Daniel 7, Revelation, so forth. Anyway, I'm not going to read all of this. I'm just going to kind of do this. It says Russian history redirects here. Russian history, blah, 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 blah. Timeline of Russian history. Okay, the power of the Roman Empire goes back when Esau came in. We can say 65 BCE, BC before Christ, BCE before the Christian era, or BCE before the Common Era. BCE also means before Christ. So the Roman Empire, which is the beast, the first beast, came about and came into power, let's say about 65 years before the birth of the Messiah. The original kings, let's say, of the Roman Empire were sons of Japhet, the Etruscans and so forth. You can go into that history, which are the sons of Japhet, which are dark-skinned people. Today, they would be the descendants of these people would be the Hawaiians, the Samoans, the Polynesians, South Pacific people, the Islanders, and then the so-called, Esau, the white man, came in, and that's why you see this man with the togas and the rosemary wreaths around their head, and their system was somewhat based upon the system of the sons of Japhet. Like I said, that's why they wore the togas and the sandals and so forth. And what made them an empire was they defeated other nations, and these nations that were warriors that had great armies joined forces with them under the allegiance of the Roman Empire, the Roman government. That's how empires are set up. You take down another nation and you say, we won't kill you, but you would give us tribute. We make you tributary, which means if you pay us a percentage of, your goods, if you have a farm of cattle on it, they'll say we'll take a percentage of that, whether it's 5%, 10%, or whatever. And we won't kill y'all. You can keep your religion and so forth, and such and so forth. And that's what they did when they took Palestine. They told the religious leaders, you can keep your religion, you can have your leadership, you can have a leadership over your people. So the Romans, the ancient pagan Romans, did not necessarily put us into captivity as a people. Matter of fact, the Romans didn't do that to any of those nations unless they didn't go along with the bargain. So what they did was they said, we'll put a decree for a tax, which is tribute. Tribute and tax means the same thing. That's why they had a census. That's in Matthew's chapter 2, which they counted the people that they conquered. And the main reason why they did it, or the reason why they did it, you got an X amount of numbers in this kingdom, and 80% of them are doing very well. So you expect a certain amount of money from them. And then you had sons and daughters of these various nations that came up in rank under the Romans. See, the Roman Empire was a metropolis, meaning a mother city. So you had these great warriors that came from the various nations that they conquered, including Jake, because Jake came up in status under the Roman Empire. That's why you had Jakes that abandoned the law, statutes, and commandments to follow the ways of the Roman system. Julius Tiberius Alexander, look him up. I did videos on him before in the past. He was raised up as an Israelite under the laws, his parents. He was an Alexandrian Israelite. But when he grew up, he put that to the side to, to be a high ranking officer, military man, and general. And basically, from being a general, he became a Senate, but then he became a council. A council is a higher rank than a Senate. A council, the position of a council is like one step away from being the Caesar, being the emperor at that time. So you had Jakes that were in high positions, just like you see today in America and around the world. You got Jakes that are well respected by Esau because Jakes make things happen. So that happened so much to the point that we've said, fuck the white man, and we pushed him out. And we became the emperors and the rulers, and we had them high positions. So there was no time between, let's go back to 65. I believe it was Julius Caesar that became emperor in 45, but they started gaining power maybe 20 years before that. And so I said all that to say this. The Russians, you have certain people, and I was watching a video that Bishop or General Netanyahu did. Remember, he did the video about the last video he did this past so-called Saturday about the charagma and the woman, the cup and the forehead, and blasphemy, and cup full of the abominations and iniquities and all that. Gave it to the other nations and so forth and such and such. So I'm listening to that again, and about at the 55-minute mark, you listen. He talks about, he goes into the beast, goes into Daniel 7, but then he goes into the 7 heads, and he says the 7 heads. He mentions one of the heads are the Russians. And if he had watched our videos in the past, we said it many times in many different videos that the Russians were not a part of the Roman Empire at all. Russia wasn't even thought of. And he got that from the 7 of 1 West, because that's how it was broken down. Russia was part of that empire, which in fact, when you go into the history, Russia came about in the 800s, the mid 800s AD, Anno Domini. So let me just read some of this history. So he should get his facts together. Russia was never part of the beast. Now, in Revelation chapter 13, the first couple of verses, which he goes through, he says the feet of it are the bear. Yeah, the feet of it are the bear, representing Russia, meaning Russia is going to be the end of this man. The end of you is your body. You start from the head, you go down to your feet, your foot, or your feet. So that only represents the downfall of this man, because this because the bear will shoot missiles on Babylon the Great or the Horde. But also the NATO nations will do the same thing. So, like I said, the feet of the bear represent the end of this man. The Most High is going to use this group of Edomites to take down Babylon the Great. So if you go back to the Roman Empire, like I said, the height of the Roman Empire started in 65 AD and ended in around 95, 96 AD. That's why in the Apocrypha, 2nd Ezra 11, 2nd Ezra 12, it speaks about the 12 feathers of the eagle. Each feather represents the 12 original Caesars, starting with Julius, ending with Domitian. And I always go through this so I know it by heart. And then after that, that was the last of Esau ruling. So Russia never made a treaty with the Roman Empire. The Roman Empire never took down the Russians. Matter of fact, the Russians wasn't even heard of until the mid 800s AD. So let's do a little reading here. I'm not going to read this whole thing. It says the history of Russia begins with the histories of the East Slavs. Slavs meaning slaves. East Slavs. I'm not going to do all this reading. Slavic language, which a lot of them were Jakes. And Russia was built up by Jake, which are the Scythians. The traditional start date of, give me a second, specifically Russian history is the establishment of the Rush. Now, the Spirit opened my eyes to understand what it means by the Rush. The Rus. Rush is Hebrew. Now, they might tell you it's Greek, it's Latin, it's this, it's that, it's other, it's that. Rush is the Hebrew word Ra'ash, which means head or chief. Ra'ash Shah is chief prince. Shah is prince. So Russia means chief prince, as it says in the English in Ezekiel 30, chapter 38. It says, Rush state in the north in 862 ruled. Now, Esau had no power at that time. This is the birth of the Russian empire, rulership, whatever you want to call it, ruled by Varangians. Look that up. The Varangians are Viking conquerors, which are Edomites. Some say that they're Jake too. Remember, Jake was scattered all over the place. So Jake had a big influence in these empires too. Traders and settlers, mostly from present day Sweden. So you got a lot of Jakes that live among the Swedes that look just like Edomites. The Varangians settled in the territories of modern day Belarus. That's part of the Russian Empire. Belarus meaning beautiful Russia. They say it means white Russia. It doesn't mean white Russia. Bel means beautiful in Latin, and Russia, Bella, you know, the Italians say Bella. That means beautiful. Rush it means beautiful Russia or beautiful chief. Russia and Ukraine, because Ukraine was a part of the Russian Empire, so it's coming back together, assembly of great nations. And in the 9th century, which is the 800s, they founded the medieval state of Kievan rule. Where is Kiev or Kiev? It doesn't say. I can do a little research on that. Kievian is Kiev. That's the capital of the Ukraine. So the Ukraine was a part of the Russian Empire. So that's that assembly of nations coming back together. They founded the medieval state of Kievan Rus. They also formed the Byzantine Varigian. So the Byzantine, who ruled the Byzantine Empire? Jake. So we had a big part of that empire. When you go into the Russians, go further into the Russians, they it also that history also speaks about the Scythians, which the Apostle Paul spoke to the Scythians, the barbarians and the Scythians. So let me come back. Staraya, which sounds Hebrew, Ladaga, which sounds Hebrew, Novgorod became the first major, cities of the new union of immigrants from Scandinavia with the Slavs, slaves, and Finns. In 882 AD, Prince Oleg of Novgorod seized Kiev or Kiev. They used to say Kiev. Kiev, also spelled Kiev, is the capital and most populous city of Ukraine. It is in north central Ukraine along the, I don't know if that's a silent D, Dnieper River. As of 1 January 2022, its population is, let me see, that's hundreds, thousands, 2 million, almost 3 million, making Kiev or Kiev the seventh most populous city in Europe. Kiev is an important industrial, scientific, educational. I'm not going to read anymore. That's why the U.S. is backing it up, because Kiev or Ukraine is also known as the breadbasket of all of Europe. And this, when you make chips for cars, what stacks the chips is neon gas. And they say, I believe Ukraine has about 50 plus percent of all the neon gas, or can produce it on the planet. So this is why the U.S. and NATO nations are protecting it, because once the Russians get it, it's game over. It's game over. You see, all these wars are based upon what? Land, because what's on the land? Resources. Why do you think the U.S. is backing up Taiwan over China? Because they deal with those chips. Nobody can make those chips that all newer cars have. The Chinese are not as good as putting them together as the people of Taiwan. They're a highly technical, scientific nation of people. They're technical people. And where they get the training from? They got it from the U.S., U.S. science, German science. And U.S. science is nothing but German science any damn way. That's why we know that, the, what do you call them? The particular group of Edomites, Teman. It says Teman are known for their wisdom. So we said that it makes all the sense in the world that the Temanites, the descendant of the tribe of Teman of Esau, are the Germans. It says, thereby uniting the northern and southern lands of the Eastern Slavs under one authority. So all Putin is doing is trying to bring back the empire. And he's doing it because the Most High put the spirit on him to do it. And they got it. They got it. They didn't took they all of taking Kiev over. Kiev was the capital. Once you take the capital, you got the whole place. So we don't know where my man Levinsky, whatever his name is, Levinsky. Matter of fact, give me a second. Get his name right. Zelensky. Zelensky dancing in heels. The president of the Ukraine dances. And if you see that, you're going to turn your head away. So let me get back into it. Governor center of Kiev by the end of the 10th century, which is the 900s AD, and maintaining northern and southern parts with significant autonomy from each other. The state adopted Christianity from the Byzantine Empire. Who were the people of the Byzantine Empire? Jake. So that shows you, man, you have a lot of Jakes that are among the Russians that look like Edomites, and some of them even look like Jakes. In 988, beginning the synthesis of Byzantine and Slavic cultures that define Russian culture. That's why you got the icons, the Russian icons, because they were following the religion of the Byzantines, which were Israelites. So they knew that the saints were Jake. They knew that the saints were dark. You know, you have a church called the Greek Orthodox Church. For the next millennium, Kievan Rus ultimately disintegrated as a state due to the Mongol invasion. The Mongols are Moabites. Now, if you watch Olympic boxing, you see Russian teams. A lot of them look like straight up Moabites, because guess what? They are Moabites, and some of them kind of have that Edomite look to them. It says in 1237 to 1240, along with the resulting deaths of significant numbers of the population, and with the numerous principalities being forced to accept the overlordship of the Mongols. I said Mongols, the Mongolians, and they were fierce warriors. But anyway, I'm not going to read anymore. I mean, this is getting into the modern history. If you come down, see, there's a lot to be read. Prehistory. Antiquity, let's check that out. Stele, which means stone, with two Hellenistic soldiers of the Bosporan kingdom. You can see that they got the beards. And these most likely had to be Jakes. Or they had to be Jakes. You can see the nose chipped off. Let me see something here. But look at that. Look at that. You see, this is a younger man. His beard is not fully grown in. His beard is fully grown in. These have to be Jakes. You see the nose chipped off on both of these figures here. Oh, and another thing, this is how we know that all of the Roman emperors that came after Domitian, it's except for maybe Nerva, but I believe there's a bust of him where he has no beard. Then there's another one where he has a full beard. But Hadrian, Marcus Aurelius, Commodus, his son, they all had full Hebrew Israelite type beards. So, I said all of that. Let me bring this back. Where did we go? Where did we go? Bring this back. Bear with me for a minute. Damn, how do I get out of this thing? Do it this way. Okay, here we go. Now, this is from the what? The 4th century BC. So that was definitely Jake. Man, Jake always wound up taking shit over. The saints of the Most High shall take the kingdom. These probably had to be Jake's. Then you had the Vikings. They were making trade at that time. These are like warrior clans. Now look at that. Mongol invasion and Fisage or whatever how you say it. Fisashi. That's 1223 to 1480. Grand Duchy of Moscow. Alexander Nevsky, and he probably was a Jake. He got the beard. That was probably a Jake. Esau knows. He knows our history, man. Rise of Moscow. Ivan III the Great, which this guy, Putin, is saying that he's the reincarnation of Ivan the Great, or even Peter the Great. Look at that. Look at this. Fully bearded. He got a bushy beard, and you can see the hair. These were. Look at the robe. Look at the robe, man. Look at the robe. And he's got the globe with the Christian cross crucifix. Okay, this is Ivan III of Russia at the millennium of Russia. At his feet defeated Tartan. Okay, so these guys that have bowed down, they were defeated. Tartar, Lithuanian, and Baltic Germany. This is Ivan the Terrible, and I guess this is supposed to be Putin. He kind of looks like Putin with a beard. First thing I noticed. Because reincarnation, we do, Israelites are not the only people that get reincarnated. Everybody gets reincarnated. Animals, people. So they're saying that Putin's supposed to be the reincarnated Ivan the Terrible. a session of Romanovs and early rule. This is the 1600s. You had the Bolshevik revolution. It was in 1917 where they killed the royal family, and then they had set up communism. There's a movie on there called Red. Was it called Reds or the Reds? There's Peter the Great, Catherine the Great. There's a lot of history, man. A lot of history. But it doesn't say anything about Russia being a part of the Roman Empire. Of course, the Roman Empire was taken over by Jake. The span to the Roman Empire, you can go as far back as 65 AD to 96. I'm sorry, 65 BC to 96 AD. So we're talking what? We're talking 150 years, about 100, 150, 160 years, 150 years. And Esau didn't come into rulership until the first emperor, which was 45. So 45 BC. So this man didn't have a long rulership. He has a longer rulership now, the beast coming back into power. But he never got with the Russians. Remember, the span of Rome was from about 45 BC to 96 AD. Russia came along in the mid 800s AD. So anyway, that was a little history. With that, I'm gonna say shalom.